If I can ask you to take your places, we have a very insightful session about what it takes to be an intellectual entrepreneur and start your own think tank with Dr. Tom Palmer. Tom has consulted and traveled to countless think tanks all around the world. He has seen many think tanks blossom into truly inspiring organizations, and he has also seen some fail. Sharing his insights and experience on what it takes to start a policy think tank, please welcome back again to the stage Dr. Tom Palmer.
Well, thank you so much. I should begin by something I normally say you shouldn't ever do, which is a little bit of an apology. I have not shaken anyone's hands here. Now, there's a reason for that, and that's that I'm a very selfish person. I got a nasty cold, and I don't want to share it with any of you. It's my cold, and I'm going to keep it. But that's the reason I've maybe been less friendly than I normally appear. I've been involved in the Liberty Movement for a few years. Casey reminded me that we had met in 1998. I said, that's not possible. That would be 20 years ago. But I've been involved for much, much longer than that. And one of the first organizations I was involved in setting up, they were in the communist countries. So some of these are still in existence, the Liberalny Institute in Prague, Katalici in Moscow, and others. And I learned a few things over the years about what to do and what not to do. So let me start then with the opening. What do you start with? You start with an idea. But it needs to be a very particular kind of idea, not just we're going to make things better. Ask yourself the question, what is the problem to which the organization we want to set up is the solution? What is the lack that we are going to address and supply? And formulate that. What's the problem? You have a solution, but first, what's the problem to which you're offering a solution? And then you need a team. Quite often people start just saying, well, I'm one person with an idea. It's very hard for only one person to make this happen. You do need a team of people. And that means people who are committed to it one way or another. Look for some complementarity of skills or resources. It might be one person has tremendous ability in communication or research or resources. Maybe you have a member who can financially support you or has a business that can be helpful to you. Your core team is the group of people you're really going to rely on. And one of them needs to be a driver. And my definition of a driver is the person who goes to bed at night thinking about the problems and wakes up in the morning thinking about what is going to be done that day with and for the organization. Now, you might have a multitude of those people, but you need at least one for whom this is a passionate commitment, not a hobby or not some little side activity. You go to bed, sleep thinking about it, and you wake up in the morning thinking about it. You need to get educated on what other people have done. And we have a wonderful program at Atlas Network that you can do online, the Think Tank Navigator. It helps people to get straight on what it is that they can accomplish. What do they want to do? What is your passion? What are you able to accomplish? So it's a very useful preliminary to establishing a new organization. And I'm saying this also for people who are involved in existing organizations. It's worth going through this just to clarify your role, your thinking, what it is that you hope to be able to accomplish. There are a few documents you want to sit down with your core team and make sure all of you sign off on this. We agree with this. This is what we have in common. So it's not just something someone writes and then puts up, says, this is it. You should have some conversation over tea or beer or whatever is appropriate for you. Sit down and really discuss it, rework it. The key is to come to an agreement as to what it is you want to do. And the first one is a vision statement. It should be an inspiring general statement of what you hope to accomplish. So I'll just give you the examples with Atlas Network. Our vision is of a free, prosperous, and peaceful world where limited governments defend the rule of law, private property, and free markets. Now, our board of directors spent actually a substantial amount of time debating and discussing and going back and forth until it was one they all agreed to. That all of our board agreed to this. All the staff members have signed off on this also. This is our vision of what we hope to accomplish. A mission statement. Why does your organization exist? Why are you here? Well, let me give you an example of Atlas Networks. Our mission is to strengthen the worldwide freedom movement by cultivating a highly effective and expansive network. I should point out every word was discussed. It's effective. We try to increase the capabilities of our partners by providing them with training and opportunities. And it's expansive. We want to grow. We want the benefits of liberty and dignity and justice and peace to reach every corner of the world. That a network that inspires and incentivizes all committed individuals and organizations to achieve lasting impact. So that's our mission at the Atlas Network. Yours will be focused on whatever it is you think that you should be accomplishing. Well, in terms of missions, some of the things that you might be able to accomplish: public education, popularization of ideas. We have some partners who focus mainly on putting them in popular terms in videos and other things that people can grasp. It might be legal advocacy, public policy research, and so on, or some combination. But the key to a mission statement is it tells you not only what you do, you can refer to it when someone proposes something and say, well, we don't do that. It's not in our mission. Because one thing you want to avoid is having little bits and bobs attached to your organization so that at the end of a couple of years you don't realize, why are we here anymore? Because you kept adding things that seem like good programs. Someone should do it. But the question is, should we do it? Is it part of our mission? The fact someone should do it is not enough. The question is it part of our mission? And your mission statement should help you to decide that. You need to have a business model and a business plan. There are many different models of a think tank, and they will be determined by the laws in your country, the tax laws, the registration procedures. There's no one model globally. Every country is different. So look at your legal situation and decide how you're going to be organized. So a number of options. Independent non-governmental research institute. So think of IEA in London as really the flagship of that, or CCS in India. A university-based independent research center. It's another opportunity, another option. I recommend when doing that to try to become independent and not subservient to the rector of the university, but to be an authentically independent center. A charitable institution, this is another option in different countries. And finally, in some countries, an independent for-profit company turns out to be the best way to do it, because the legal system does not really permit a charitable organization or an independent research group. So look to the legal code, and one thing I recommend, ask lawyers. Go to real lawyers who really practice law, not your friend who has an opinion. And say, what is the legal situation here? What can we do? What is required? What is the best option for us in your own country? You need to have a business plan. Just like rolling out any new business, you need to have a plan. And that needs to have the normal elements of a business plan. One of the things that we stress at Atlas Network is you think of yourself as being in the education business or the social advocacy business or the research business. You're running a business. And if you run out of money in September because you didn't budget yourself correctly, it doesn't matter how wonderful and nice you are. You're out of money. You need to follow proper business procedures. So maybe it's a nonprofit. Okay. But you still need to run in a business-like manner. You need to have clear timelines and deadlines. We hope to publish this book, this study, have this conference, this parliamentarian consultation, whatever, and work backwards with your timeline. What has to be done by what date to be able to meet your rollout schedule. The same thing as if you are producing a new product, a new automobile, a new kind of watch, anything else. You need to be businesslike. And a budget, or as I like to put it, budgets, plural. The first budget, and this is a nonsensical budget, really go out and cost things out, not just numbers out of the air. 1 million rupiah, 10 million rupiah, 200 million rupiah. What does it really cost to do what you intend to do? Start with what you hope to do. You want to hold a conference, you want to have this, go and find out how much it costs. And I know from the perspective of someone who reviews grant proposals and is a personal donor to many projects, I don't believe it when people say it will cost $5,000. I don't believe it. It means they didn't go and find out what it will really cost. And I want to know they checked it and they said $5,200, $4,690, whatever it is. Shows to me they did the research. They didn't just pull a number out of the air. So create a budget that you think is realizable and modest. We could do it. It's our minimum viable product, as they call in business. This is the minimum viable product. We could produce this and it would be something real. It wouldn't be half of something. It would be all of one important project. Then add a little bit more. Let's say 25%. What if you're more successful than you had expected? What would you do? What more would you roll out? And then finally, just for your own purposes, a fantasy budget. What if you're really successful? Or you meet some entrepreneur who says, oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this all my life. What would you do? And the reason is sometimes you will meet that entrepreneur. And when the entrepreneur says, what would you do with 200 million rupiah? It would be good to have an answer and not, I don't know. But that's your fantasy budget. What would you do if you had a lot of resources? But I recommend 3 budgets and really cost them out systematically so they're not just pulled out of the air. We'd spend 2,000 on this and 10,000 on that and 5,000 on this. What would it really, in fact, cost? Not wild guesses. A marketing plan. You might ask, who are your customers? You are a business, and a business has customers. You need to make sure the customers are happy. So you learn in business very quickly. Unhappy customers equals bankruptcy. You want happy customers. Well, who are your customers? Are they the ones who give you money? That's the obvious one. Your donors, they're giving you money. What are they getting in exchange? Presumably not privileges or benefits. You don't have any to hand out. You're not a corrupt government official. So what is it they get? Well, they get an identity. They get the knowledge, I'm this kind of person who stands up for these values. People who buy your books or your papers, they're customers. You want them to be happy, to realize they got value from it. I have a definition of a customer. People who expend scarce resources to consume your products. So if you think about it, all of the various people you interact with can be seen as customers. People who visit your web page spent 10 minutes of their valuable time. They didn't give money, but they spent 10 minutes. A student who comes to your conference spends 3 hours that could be done doing something else that's more fun. But that person spent time. If a newspaper editor is going to print your article, you submit an op-ed on food prices in Indonesia and why Indonesians will benefit from free trade. The editor of the newspaper decides to spend this much of a page. That's very valuable. That's the resource the editor has. The editor is going to spend it on you or someone else. What value do you bring to that editor, causing the editor to spend that scarce resource on you? So when you think about customers, we normally think of people like this. But in fact, your customer base is made up of all sorts of different groups. Policymakers and entrepreneurs and students, newspaper editors. Those are all customers. And you should ask, what value are we delivering to these customers such that they will want to consume our products? Now, the other element, and this is one we had a conference on before this, is fundraising. That's very important. Raising capital for your activities. It is not begging. This is the hardest thing for people to overcome. We are raised by our parents not to be beggars. That's normal. We internalize it. I don't want to go beg and be pathetic and sad to people. When you raise money for your activity, you are not a beggar. You are raising capital investments for a valuable project. You're creating value in the world. And your donor is someone who has capital and resources. You have time and energy and intellect. Together, you'll make a business. And this business will add value to the world. So when people are going out to raise capital for their enterprise, they're not begging, they're raising capital. And that is what you are doing as well. Overcome that burden, that obstacle, and practice asking for funds for your activities. It's a hard thing to overcome. Once you get over it, you realize you're helping other people. This is one thing I learned a long time ago. One of the donors, I felt all embarrassed asking, and he said, you seem a little ashamed of this. He said, don't be. He says, I can't run all these projects. I run a successful business, but I want these things to happen. We can make a partnership. It changed my whole view on the world when I learned that. When you do that, join the Atlas Network. And you are part of a global network of friends. And one thing I think that's become very clear in the course of this conference, we have friends all over the world who work for our principles and our values in so many different circumstances. Some of them at great personal risk to themselves. And there are some of our friends who are not here because they have been punished by governments for standing up for truth and justice and have paid terrible prices for it. But always know you are not alone. You are not alone. There are other people who share your values, people who care about you, and people who will be helpful to you and support you, even in very difficult and dark times. And with that, as they say in Italian, libertiamo means let's liberty. Let's create a world that is free and just and prosperous and peaceful. And your participation in Atlas Network is a very important part of that project. Thank you very much for your time and your participation.